Good evening. It is morning in the city of Zaporizhzhia, and in that morning Russian forces struck. That is the fact we start with. According to reports from the local military administration, the attack happened early in the day, before the routines of daylight could fully settle in. It was not described as distant. It was not described as abstract. It was described as something people could see. A fire broke out, and that fire was visible to residents. That detail matters, because visibility means proximity. It means the consequences of the strike were not hidden behind official language or distant geography. The fire could be seen from where people were. You know, there are moments in news reporting where the smallest confirmed detail carries the greatest weight. And this is one of those moments. A fire, visible to residents. It tells us that whatever was struck, whatever ignited, it produced smoke, light, and heat that rose into the morning air. It means windows looked out onto something changed. It means people saw evidence with their own eyes that an attack had occurred. The local military administration reported it. That is the source. That is the boundary of what we know. And within that boundary, the picture is already stark. Early morning, a strike, a fire. Air raid warnings remain active throughout Zaporizhzhia Oblast. That too is confirmed, not lifted, not concluded, still active. And that tells us something else without requiring interpretation. It tells us that the danger is not declared over. It tells us that the systems designed to warn people are still sounding, still engaged, still relevant. Authorities are assessing the impact. That phrase can sound routine, but in this context, it carries a heavy quiet. Assessing the impact means determining what was hit, what was damaged, what was affected, and what may still be at risk. It means information is still coming in. It means the full picture is not yet complete. And that is where the morning stands. I want to slow this down because the facts are few and they are precise and they deserve to be treated with care. This was not described as an isolated incident resolved in minutes. Air raid warnings remain active. The assessment is ongoing. The effects are visible. There is a kind of tension that exists in moments like this. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is the tension of waiting while alarms remain on and answers are still being gathered. One short-spoken truth comes to mind in moments like this. You can see it and you can't unsee it. That is not analysis. That is human reality. Residents saw the fire. The reports do not specify more than that, and we will not add more than that. But even that single confirmed observation places this event firmly in the lived experience of the people there. The strike occurred in the morning, the fire followed, the warnings continue, the assessment is underway. That is the sequence. And in that sequence, time itself becomes a factor. Morning is when people wake up. Morning is when cities begin to move. Morning is when children, workers, families begin their day. And in Zaporizhzhia, that morning included an attack and a visible fire. Authorities have not yet concluded their assessment. That is important. It means this is not a closed chapter. It means reporting continues and caution remains in place. Air raid warnings across Zaporizhzhia Oblast are still active. That phrase encompasses more than a single location. It indicates a regional state of alert. It indicates that the systems responsible for public safety messaging are still signaling potential danger. No additional details are confirmed in the report. No further outcomes are stated, and so we stay with what is known without stretching beyond it. The city was struck. A fire broke out. Residents could see it. Warnings remain active. Authorities are assessing the impact. Sometimes, in the absence of more information, the most responsible thing to do is to hold the facts steady and let them speak at their own volume. Another quiet line fits here. Something that feels true without adding anything new. This is how a day begins, and nothing feels ordinary. That is the morning in Zaporizhzhia, as reported. And as we move forward, the question is not what we imagine next, but what is confirmed next. We will continue step by step within the boundaries of what is known. As the morning unfolded in Zaporizhzhia, The next confirmed phase of this event was not resolution, but evaluation. Authorities began assessing the impact of the attack. That phrase is doing a lot of work here, and it deserves to be unpacked carefully, without adding anything to it. Assessing the impact means the process was still active. It means officials were gathering information rather than delivering conclusions. And it means that at the time of reporting, the full scope was not yet established. Air raid warnings remained active throughout Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Not partially active, not briefly active, remained active. That continuation is important because it places the assessment within a climate of ongoing alert. The warnings were not lifted as the fire burned. They stayed on as authorities worked to understand what had happened. There is a particular sound to an air raid warning that does not fade into the background once you have heard it. When it remains active, it shapes the environment around it. It tells people plainly and repeatedly that caution is still required. The reports from the local military administration do not elaborate beyond that. They do not specify targets. They do not describe damage in detail. They do not list casualties or infrastructure. And that absence is not something to fill in. It is something to respect. What we can say, exactly as reported, is that a Russian strike occurred early in the morning, that a fire broke out, and that the fire was visible to residents. We can say that air raid warnings remained active across the oblast, and that authorities were assessing the impact. This is a moment where the shape of the news is defined as much by what is still underway as by what has already happened. Assessment is a process. It implies movement from uncertainty toward clarity, but not yet arrival. It means teams are working, information is being gathered, and decisions are being made based on what is discovered. While that process continued, the warnings stayed on. And that tells us something very specific about the conditions on the ground. It tells us that officials had not declared the environment safe. It tells us that residents were still being advised to remain alert. There is a restrained urgency embedded in that combination of facts. A fire visible to residents suggests immediacy. Active air raid warnings suggest ongoing risk. An assessment in progress suggests that the situation is not yet fully defined. One simple spoken line captures that feeling without going beyond it. We don't know everything yet. That is not speculation. That is a reflection of the reporting itself. The early timing of the attack also remains significant. Morning attacks intersect with the beginning of daily life. Even without additional detail, the timing alone shapes how the event is experienced. People wake up into it, they look outside into it, they listen to warnings that are still sounding. And officials, at the same time, are assessing what has occurred. The reports do not tell us how long the fire burned. They do not tell us what resources were deployed. They do not tell us when the warnings might be lifted, so we do not tell you those things either. Instead, we stay with the confirmed sequence. Strike, fire, visibility, warning still active, assessment ongoing. This is how responsible reporting sounds when the facts are still arriving. Sometimes the most honest broadcast is one that resists the urge to rush forward. Sometimes it is about standing in the moment that exists, even when that moment is unresolved. The local military administration provided the information that anchors this report. That source establishes the authority of the details and also the limits of what is known at this stage. They reported the strike. They reported the fire. They reported the continued warnings. They reported the assessment. Nothing more and nothing less. And within those lines, there is a clear picture of a region operating under caution. Zaporizhzhia Oblast remained under air raid warnings. That regional framing matters. It indicates that the alert was not confined to a single street or neighborhood. It encompassed a broader area. That broad alert status reinforces why assessments matter so much. Authorities need to understand not only what has already happened, but what risks may still exist. And while that work is ongoing, the public remains under warning. Another quiet line fits here, something spoken more like an acknowledgement than a declaration. This isn't finished yet. That line does not add facts. It simply mirrors the status described by the authorities themselves. The continued presence of warnings also shapes the flow of information. When alerts are active, movement is cautious, communication is measured, confirmation takes time. That is part of why assessments are not instant. They are deliberate. They happen while alarms remain on. They happen while visibility is still affected by smoke and fire. They happen while the morning continues under altered conditions. The reports do not tell us when the assessment began or how long it would take. They simply state that it is underway. And so, as viewers, as listeners, as people receiving this information, we sit with that reality. An early morning attack, a fire seen by residents, warnings still active across the oblast, authorities working to understand the impact. This is not a conclusion. It is the middle of an unfolding account. And that middle matters because it is where caution is maintained and clarity is built. In moments like this, restraint is not a lack of information. It is a sign that the information is being handled carefully. We are not yet at the point where authorities have finished their assessment. We are not yet at the point where warnings are lifted. We are at the point where the process is ongoing. And that is where we remain, faithfully reflecting what is known and nothing more. As we come to the closing portion of this script, we are still in the same morning. That is important. Time has not advanced to resolution. It has not advanced to aftermath. It has not advanced to summary or conclusion by authorities. We are still inside the hours that began with the strike. Russian forces attacked Zaporizhzhia. A fire broke out. Residents could see it. Air raid warnings remain active throughout Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Authorities are assessing the impact. Those facts have not changed. And because they have not changed, the ending of this script is not about tying things up neatly. It is about accurately reflecting where things stand, without embellishment, without assumption, and without moving faster than the facts allow. There is a discipline required in moments like this. It is the discipline of staying put. The morning continues under alert. The systems that warn people of danger are still engaged. The process of understanding what was hit, what burned, and what may still be at risk is still ongoing. The fire, as reported, was visible to residents. That visibility lingers in the imagination not because we add to it, but because it was confirmed at all. Fires that can be seen mark a shared point of reference. People know where they were when they saw it. They know what they were doing when they realized the morning had changed. And yet, the reporting does not go further than that. It does not tell us what was damaged. It does not tell us how long the fire burned. It does not tell us when the air raid warnings might end. So we do not go further either. We stay exactly where the facts place us. The continued air raid warnings across Zaporizhzhia Oblast are perhaps the most telling element of where things stand right now. Warnings are not symbolic. They are functional. They remain active because authorities believe there is reason for them to remain active. That is not interpretation. That is function. As long as warnings remain on, the environment remains cautious. Movement is constrained. Decisions are made with the assumption that risk has not passed. And alongside that, authorities are assessing the impact. Assessment is careful work. It is methodical. It does not happen all at once. It unfolds as information is verified and conditions allow. Sometimes the most accurate ending is one that admits it is not an ending at all. A short, quiet line fits here, something that sounds like recognition rather than commentary. This is where we are right now. Right now includes a confirmed attack. Right now includes a visible fire. Right now includes ongoing air raid warnings. Right now includes an assessment still in progress. There is no contradiction in ending a script without closure when the situation itself has not reached closure. In fact, doing otherwise would misrepresent the moment. The local military administration reports are the backbone of what we know. They establish the sequence and the status. They do not extend beyond that. And so we do not either. This is a city that woke up to an attack. This is a region still under warning. This is an authority structure actively working to determine impact. Nothing in the reporting suggests the morning has returned to normal. Nothing in the reporting suggests the situation has fully stabilized. And nothing in the reporting suggests that the assessment has concluded. So the responsible place to end is not with certainty, but with accuracy. There is a kind of emotional restraint that comes with that accuracy. It does not raise its voice. It does not add adjectives. It does not search for meaning beyond what is present. It simply says, this happened, this is happening, and this is what is known so far. Another brief spoken line belongs here, one that acknowledges the weight without adding to it. Some mornings carry more than others. That line does not introduce opinion. It reflects the reality that mornings can be defined by what enters them. January in Zaporizhzhia entered with a strike. It entered with fire. It entered with warnings that remain active. And it entered with authorities beginning the careful work of assessment. As viewers and listeners, we often expect the end of a script to provide distance from the beginning. In this case, the distance has not yet formed. We are still close to the initial facts. And sometimes that closeness is the most honest place to stop, not because there is nothing more to say, but because saying more would require going beyond what is confirmed. So we end by restating the reality as it stands. Russian forces struck the city of Zaporizhzhia. A fire broke out and was visible to residents. Air raid warnings remain active throughout Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Authorities are assessing the impact of the attack. That is the full, verified frame. Nothing added, nothing taken away. And until those conditions change, that frame remains open.